Hey, friends, did you know that God gets you? Well, that's the title of our lesson this week. And our lesson is lesson number, let me see if I got this right, lesson number 7. And the title is God Gets You. But I think you get the idea what it means to have somebody understand us. And maybe that's the idea here. God understands you and he understands me. That's a beautiful principle because our promise from God is this. Hebrews 4:15 says, our high priest is able to understand our weaknesses. Now, that's a very loaded term, the term weakness, because we assume that's a negative term, that's a bad thing. But the idea is here that God so identifies himself with us that he gets us. He gets us when we're sad. He gets us when we're lonely. He gets us when we're hurting. He gets us when we're thirsty or when we're hungry. And how do we know that he gets us? Because Jesus himself, God became flesh in Jesus, that he also went through sadness, through pains, through joy, through hunger, through thirst. So today's lesson is very appropriate for us. So let's dive into it. If you go to page 65, we're going to fill in some of the blanks there. And as we understand his promise to us that he is able to understand our weakness, then my promise is this. I will draw near to God with confidence that he hears and understands me. Do you believe that he understands you today? I hope you do, because the truth of that matter is that he does. He does understand you and me. So let's go to the line items there that on page 65. First one is a question, and this is the question. It says, does God have any time for my, and you fill in there, problems? Do you think God has enough time for your problems? It's a great question because I believe that a lot of us think that Jesus or God himself is too busy. Maybe he's busy in another continent with people that are worse off than we are. And we ought to be thinking about them because it's true. They need care. But as far as you and I are concerned, God understands me. He knows my problems and he wants to meet me where I am. And maybe today and tonight in this gathering, you're needing God to remind you that he gets you because he knows your problems. Now, why do we say that? Go to the second line. The second line says this. That's how the games is meant to be played. That's how the game is meant to be played. Have you ever played charades or gone to a party where you have people in costumes? I believe that sometimes we think that God plays games, and that's not the game that we're referring to here. It's not about make-believe. It's not about charades. It's not about making stories up. He literally became flesh. As a matter of fact, John chapter 1, verse 14 says this, the Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. The Word became flesh. Who is the Word? Jesus is the Word. So he becomes flesh because he's not playing games. He's actually identifying with us. And that's such a powerful truth to remind ourselves with, because if he doesn't play games, that means that we are on a winning side. We won already the game, and there's no pretending. The third line that you need to see here, it says this, the Son of God came in a humble way. That's a great story, the story of the nativity, or Jesus coming to be born on earth. He didn't come to a palace. He didn't come from rich parents. He didn't come from well-to-do families. He had lineage, but nonetheless, he came very humbly. And that also is a way of him understands me. He gets me when I'm lacking things. He gets me when there's no more room for me. He gets me when my parents struggle. He gets me when people don't see my life as worthwhile. Remember what they said about him when he came out in his public ministry? People asked the question. They said, "Could anything good come out of Nazareth?" Yeah. Could anything good come out of San Antonio or from New Jersey or wherever it is that you're looking at this video? Yeah, God gets us in big time, as we say. Go to the fourth line. He, parenthesis Jesus, is the image of the invisible God. It's amazing that he gets us. He comes humbly. He doesn't play any games. But the reality is that Jesus himself is the image of an invisible God. As a matter of fact, John chapter 1 tells us that we beheld his glory. In other words, we saw his glory meaning his essence, and yet he still came humbly, identifying with us. My goodness, what a good God we have. Now you get why he gets us? The last line says this, because Jesus is human, put the word there, human, he understands you. And by that I mean me too. He understands me. Let me finish by reading a passage from Hebrews chapter 5, verse 7, which is one of the readings for this week. It says this, during the days of Jesus' life on earth, he offered up prayers and petitions with loud cries and tears to the one who could save him. To the one who could save him. And then it ends up saying, and he was heard. Guess what? Today God hears you because he gets you and he understands you. He understands me too. I hope you're edified. I hope your life is encouraged today by this reality. Enjoy the rest of your meeting, and I'm so glad that I get to be part of it as well. God bless you.